Hi, welcome back to Tao of Twang. I'm Dave, Mixolydian today, and this is going to be just kind of a jam session today, a virtual jam session. And what I mean by that is that we've done a lot of work on here in the last couple weeks with those arpeggios and a lot of that mapped out stuff with the tab and everything. And that's tough work, man. That's just kind of like, taking yourself to task and just repetition. And a lot of practicing is about repetition. Today, it's going to be a little bit more conceptual, a little bit looser, and hopefully just, have some fun. I'm going to get you going with this two-chord Mixolydian jam that's really inspired by an individual lesson that I had online with a friend and student yesterday before I taped that little intro. It's Saturday morning now. I got busy last night and decided I'd just finish it off this morning. So he had been watching that video on YouTube where we were doing those kind of simple triad shapes, but moving them around the two string. Right, and it's kind of going all over the place like that. And if you saw that one, that's cool. If not, then it's the most recent one on YouTube. And so, and in that one, I happened to use the A, G, D. Well, he had made a loop of his own of just the G, the A to the G, and was working out with that and just doing some other, putting some other, ideas in there, Mixolydian ideas mostly. And so I thought, hey, well, let's go with that, and we'll just drill down a little bit further into it. So I went to my library of loops, which is there's quite a few of them in there after a couple years of doing this, and I found this one. It's a real easy, laid-back tempo. Just A and G. Should really make that one just a triad. This one's a 7 for sure. Yeah, this little. You really get that Mixolydian flavor doing it that way. And just real quick, without a lot of talk about the theory on this, the reason that really expresses the Mixolydian quality is that in this chord, and I make that a 7th, it's really like the dominant 7th, the 5 chord in some key. You can figure out what key that is. If this is the 5, what major key would that be derived from? Everybody has their own kind of system of, referencing, right? So what I do is I say, oh, if it's a 5, I know that little power chord shape, it's the 5th of D, right? So in D major, this would be the dominant 5 chord, A7, okay? And the 4 chord in that same key would be G major, but it wouldn't be dominant if you're talking about it being purely derived from the home key. It would just be just a major chord. The reason that that's important is because when you add the 7th, that information would lead you to a different 7th. So in this case, that's a Mixolydian scale. Flat 7, right? Just like you have in that dominant 7 chord. Here, if I were to note skip through the same note sequence in that out of that D major home scale, it would be called G Lydian don't get too hung up on this if it's bugging you. But here's what would happen. You'd end up with, if you wanted to do an arpeggio for this one going to the 7th, you'd have root, major third, 5th, just like we've been doing, and a flat 7. Okay, down here, if we took it up, we still have a major triad, the same shape for the G. So it's a major chord, but the 7th, if we just took it out of that same bucket of notes, would lead us to. Okay, another way of saying that is that the notes in both scales are the same notes, starting at different points, and thereby the arpeggios would follow suit with that. Again, just a little bit of background for it. Now, let's warm up with just this Mixolydian scale. Do it wherever you want. You know, everybody's got different systems going, right? And that's great. But immerse your ear, in that sound. A major pentatonic. Okay, so I like this kind of held back tempo when I'm doing this because it really allows me to pay attention to the notes more, right? It's not, if I get right into like a real fast Franklin's Tower type of, progression or something, it's fun, but it takes on a different kind of velocity. And this is, I think, a nice pace to really be able to kind of be an observer of what you're doing and integrate new things into it, right? So the scale itself, right? Stay down low there and kind of walk that bass around, but using the scale tones a lot, right? And then, some of those simple arpeggio ideas or those singled out triads. Okay. Now, notice the arpeggio, like we mentioned a little bit earlier, is different. It's got a flat 7 on the A, and when we get to the G, we want to choose a natural 7. That's a nice little shape right there. There's a nice one coming back to the A from the G. So say it's like if I'm... Hear how that note that's being targeted is the major third of the A, okay? You can't play a bad note if you stay in that diatonic cup of notes, right? The notes in this cup are the D major scale which is also kind of the 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 bottom line, right? The bottom of the pyramid for these other scales that we're talking about, A Mixolydian and G Lydian. But after a while, you can kind of just use the whole cup, right? It's like they have all these cups with all these different names on them. Not really, right? Now, so there's a good routine to get going, right? Just play that scale, keep it laid back, change positions, and do some one string stuff. Now, I'm going to make some mistakes when I do this. I always do. And it's not a disclaimer. It's actually just like a part of the demonstration. Let yourself make the mistakes and let your ear correct it. That's how your ear develops. It doesn't develop by just looking at a number on a piece of paper and always playing the right number. That's not without the mistakes. The real learning isn't very set, in the concrete nearly as well, right? Here's what I mean. Just start on the root if you want. When you do this, now I'll start kind of mingling the strings together more, and it really... Now, I don't want to let myself go here too much at once, but see how that, let's start it off like, oh man, this guy's having me play one string stuff, and I don't know, man. I might ditch this and go, watch some more, I don't know, hardcore videos or something, guitar videos, that is. So, but see how that started to evolve, rather quickly into just more ideas. It's kind of like, it's like the spark that gets you going, right? And it's not as kind of heady as like, I'm just doing this scale, that I'm doing this scale, that I'm doing this shape and this shape. Those things are important. I don't mean to make a degrade that in any way. But this thing that I just did, if you give yourself that space, you're just free, right? And your ear is really tracking that stuff down. And now, a couple of times in there, I wouldn't call them mistakes because they were actually musical choices. But I did notice as I was going there that a couple of times I went... couple times I played that note's not in the Mixolydian scale, right? I've already made a big deal today about there being a flat 7. Okay, but as a pickup, in a couple of different places, but especially from that root going down, That's interesting. See how your ear treats that? I'm playing a natural 7 here, and then when I get to the top, I'm landing right on the flat 7. So that works out. So another example of this is using enclosures. Like in that intro, I noticed this is one of the things I jotted down on my little book over here. Is I noticed that I went at least once. I went something like that. So I started the lick for the A7, which has a flat 7, by going to the second note of that Mixolydian scale, the B, to that major 7, the G sharp, and then right to the root. But that's called an enclosure. So your ear likes it. See, it's still Mixolydian, but I kicked it off like that. Here's an example of that. This is kind of a cool thing you can do right away. Okay, there's a couple of other ideas right there to save those for another video sometime. So that, and I'm just tracing the chord after that. See how that D major triad and kind of that C cage shape for D sort of fits in, bridging those two chords. Remember what our home key is, D, right? So you can actually play like some other arpeggios from that family of chords sometimes in different ways. And we're going to do some more specific work on that in some other videos. Wanted to point that out. The only other thing I think that I really haven't kind of spoken much about here is the use of these kind of harmonized licks. And this goes back to the single string stuff. Is, you can do it with the adjacent string or skipping a string, but basically you're playing parallel combinations of notes that come from those lines that go up the single strings. That sound familiar? That D, right? That kind of brings you back to that home major sound, right? But each one of those, when we're using the cup of a Mixolydian there, or notes from D major, you can combine any of those and you can really work this stuff out. It's not something that you need to be shown necessarily, like, do this one and then that one and in this order. And you can do it that way, but it's really just something that your ear will catch it if it's not the right one. Okay. I didn't want to make a fake mistake. That's what I kept going until I made a real mistake, right? And so, but your ear caught it, right? My ear caught it. You really just want to get those, and usually they'll be alternating two shapes. But just remember, what it really is it's those parallel notes from the same scale on different strings in combination. Now, I know that's leaving a lot of the work up to you, but, you know, call it, the tough method or whatever. I mean, it's that's what's going to pay off for you is taking a lesson like this and really not just trying to copy. Most of the stuff I played today weren't very well composed licks in my view, right? That they were just examples of the concepts that you could use to really create your stuff. All right. Let me know how this goes for you. Appreciate you again. See you next time.